All right. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the CV Update. We are coming off of another jam-packed week of games and noteworthy news, including the Patriots finally drafting a quarterback in the first round of the NFL draft. The Celtics, who are coming off of a thrilling win last night, but still are, I don't know, just inconsistent. But we'll talk about that more. And it was a disappointing start to the week for them. The Red Sox are continuing their strong play, and the Bruins have also continued to play well before the playoffs begin in a couple weeks, and they still haven't clinched a playoff spot. We will cover all of that today, as usual. And joining me is my co-host, Rohan Venkatej. Rohan, how are you doing?
Well, we're into May. Can't complain about that. The weather's warming up and postseason is about to heat up in the NHL and in the NBA. And it looks like, barring any sort of major collapse, as Jack Edwards would put it in Game 7 against Toronto. Again, but then that's beside the point. But anyways, we're pretty much there near the postseason. We just got to get past the finish line. And of course, who would think that at this time of year, the biggest headlines makers would be the Patriots? That's the last thing I would have expected. But oh my God, so much to talk about. And I love being here, man. It's good as always. And I look forward to hearing from our viewers and our listeners.
Yep, definitely. And also joining us this week is Ujan Talukdar, who's returning. Ujan, glad to have you back. How have you been?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Like you said, quite the week in Boston sports and really sports in general.
Yeah. And okay, so let's get started with the draft. The elephant in the room. The Patriots in the first round, 15th overall, draft Michael McCorkle Jones, also known as Mac Jones, in the first round. And I don't know, let's just start talking about him, because this is obviously the big news. Regardless, I know they drafted Christian Barmore. He's a really good player in round 2, but the quarterback, that's the most important position in football. And finally, we can finally say that this guy, here's a real replacement plan to Tom Brady. Obviously they had Cam Newton last year, but Newton was always seen as a bridge quarterback, right? Now you have a real guy who you can say is potentially your franchise quarterback down the road. Ujan, let's start with you. What are your thoughts on the Patriots drafting Mac Jones? Either good or bad thoughts.
Yeah, well, the thing with Mac Jones is I don't necessarily love it, but at the same time, I don't hate it. The thing with this is when I saw Mac Jones play, he had a lot of talent around him in the wide receiver position. For example, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, just to name two. And those guys just created a lot of separation for Mac Jones to throw to. It's just now that the Pats draft him, I think he's an accurate passer, but now but the NFL is much different than the college game. So you're not going to have so much area where you can throw the ball to your wide receivers. So this is going to be an adjustment for him. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. And also he had Najee Harris. He was taken in the first round by the Pittsburgh Steelers, the running back. So yeah, no, he had a loaded cast, but at the same time, at least in my thoughts, obviously I was admittedly, I wasn't the biggest Mac Jones fan prior to him being drafted. I thought a guy like Justin Fields would have been nice, but then Chicago traded up and got him. But all these guys, even the guy like Lawrence and Zach Wilson, right? These are all guys so I think in my opinion, I think the situation Mac Jones has gotten himself into with the Patriots, that's probably the best among the 5 guys taken in the first round. Lawrence, Wilson, Trey Lance, he went to the 49ers, Wilson to the Jets, Lawrence to the Jaguars, of course, and then Fields to Chicago, and then Mac Jones. You could argue that Mac Jones is in the best situation, just coaching wise, roster wise, this whole situation that he's in. It's a situation that will help him, I think. So you're not immediately expected to just sort of be the guy. He's going to have a good supporting cast. Compared to Lawrence, Lawrence might be the superior athlete, as some might say, but the situation Jacksonville is in, I mean, they were 1-15. That should say enough about how bad that roster is. Jets with Zach Wilson, he might be a superior athlete too, but look at the situation he's in, a 2-14 roster. Now, obviously, there's going to be differences, but I think Mac Jones is in a situation where he can succeed, and I think he does have enough weapons.
He's shown himself to be championship caliber.
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, at the same time, like I do agree, like he had weapons, but when I look back at some of the tape, I saw like the highlights, he made throws that like right like in the tight windows and stuff like that. It wasn't just simply he always dumps it to Devontae Smith, like a 5 yards of Devontae Smith scored a touchdown. Like that's sort of the impression I got when I like was listening to some like criticism on him. But when I see the tape, he's able to make the throws. Like he's able to hit the receiver right where the receiver is. Obviously, yeah, the receiver is going to be open, but that's not Mac Jones's fault that the guy's wide open. Like it's just a matter of a good quarterback taking advantage of what the situation. And sure, sometimes he'll throw a short pass and the guy will take it for 30, 40 yards, but that's not also on Mac Jones. That's a quarterback making the smart play at a given time. Tom Brady does that a lot too. And look, I know the natural comparison Mac Jones has gotten is to Tom Brady, and I don't want to go there because Tom Brady is the greatest ever. So this isn't a discussion about whether Mac Jones is going to be.
We'll have to revisit this in 20 years.
Well, maybe longer. And yeah, if he wins like 10 Super Bowls, or I guess 8 at this point, if he surpasses Brady in that regard. But
this is a once in a 28-year event, right? Drew Bledsoe being the last player to be drafted in the first round by the Patriots. First to be drafted for yeah. So I mean, this is big news. I mean, the Patriots making big big news out of that. And I have to admit, I was wrong about that because I actually thought, given the fact that they were building a team around Cam Newton, they were building their offense around Cam Newton. I firmly thought
that. Do you really believe that? Do you really believe they were actually building around Cam Newton? Like, I mean, I always felt like Newton was just like a bridge guy.
They decided to re-sign him,
but they were paying him backup money though.
So to me, that at the time it felt like a vote of confidence for Cam Newton, despite everything that happened last year, and even now, Bill Belichick is still saying that Cam's the starter. So
that's just for now, right? Like that's just to protect like the whole situation, right? I think Belichick, of course, because like Mac Jones has not played in an NFL game yet. So I think what Belichick is trying to do, I don't know, like at least Newton, even if he's not good.
I mean, he said that somebody would have to play better than Cam Newton, and that somebody is obviously Mac Jones. I mean, like of course it's got to be that, but I can't quite see what's on Belichick's mind, and it is quite hard to read his mind because on one hand, he was trying to build this team. It appeared at the time, at least to me, it appeared that he was trying to build a team around Cam Newton. Now he goes and drafts, and now the Pats go and draft Mac Jones. So it seems like they had the long game in mind. They had it seems like they were kind of hedging, right? It seemed as if they were trying to build a team around Cam Newton in case they couldn't really draft a QB. And it definitely looked like they weren't able to draft a QB early on because they had the 15th round pick. And of course, it seemed very, very likely that the top 5 college QBs would be out in rounds 1 to 5, something, or definitely like by the last like 8 or 9 or something like that. Somehow the Pats, I think that they lucked it out. They were still able to manage to get one of the top 5 QBs in college in the 15th round of pick. And by the way, Mac Jones, I mean, like, he could be one of the most underrated QBs ever. I mean, like he's definitely done better than the Pats average. I mean, in the 40, the vertical, the broad jump, and the 3-cone drill. So, given all that, I mean, there might be an intangible, his athleticism, and that doesn't. And it's not just that. I mean, his stats speak to that. I mean, he had a record 2020 season, an NCAA record 77.4% completion rate with 41 TDs, and he was the first Alabama QB to be named an All-American in 85 years. And not only that, I mean, the accolades go on and on. I mean, winning the Davey O'Brien College Best QB Award, and he was a finalist for the Heisman. So I mean, the Patriots definitely got a very, very good deal, and I would say that's an understatement. I mean, whether this kind of success translates to the NFL, that, I mean, time will tell. But then again, all teams are going through that. And I mean, as Ujan mentioned earlier, the NFL is very different from the college game. But I mean, people grow, people adjust, and Mac Jones, I mean, I believe he's shown himself very much capable of learning, and you very well could get a situation where Mac Jones is developing and Cam Newton ends up being pretty much the mentor. I think that's the most likely scenario at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like the best case scenario for this team. And like, at least actually, no. So I think the way like it'll probably go, most likely, so there's really kind of 2 situations for how this 2021 season plays out for the Patriots, right? So Cam Newton, I think, is at least obviously entering the training camp, he's going to be your starter, right? But if Mac Jones outperforms in training camp, then you have Mac Jones as your week 1 starter. And then probably Cam is your backup, because if Mac Jones for some reason can't be ready, then you at least have like a guy who played in the NFL as your quarterback. I don't want Jarrett Stidham as your backup.
Oh yeah, he's the only guy who really loses from this news.
Oh yeah, but I think the way it sort of goes is now, unlike last season, Cam Newton now actually has someone like breathing down his neck. Last season, even when Cam Newton had a horrible set of games, he basically never had to worry about his job being lost. Now, if he starts like 0-2 or something like that, I think Mac Jones is the starter then in week 3. So I think it like now, maybe hopefully this actually helps Newton like kind of get better, and actually like maybe it will force him to play better because he realizes now that this time, if he doesn't play well, he's going to be benched. I don't know, Ujan, do you think that this is a possible, like, at least incentive for Newton to play better, like, as well?
Yeah, that's for sure. I think with Cam Newton, 8 passing touchdowns in 15 games just was not good enough. I mean, yes, he had 12 rushing touchdowns, but that just made your offense just one-dimensional. Mac Jones, let's be honest, Mac Jones has a better arm than Cam Newton, but Cam Newton has better legs than Mac Jones. Mac Jones is not your like someone who's gonna scramble out of the pocket and burst a massive gain on the ground.
That's okay, right? Like, you don't need that type of guy. Like, I mean, Tom Brady has never been known for his like speed.
Tom Brady, yeah, he was just.
He's known because he's known for like his mind, like how smart he was. He knew how to pick apart defenses, coverages. So that's really what I care about, because I think Mac Jones has shown that to me. That's what makes me excited about this draft pick, because I think he's a smart guy, and I think he's the type of guy who can kind of exploit matchups on the defensive end. So I'm really excited about this pick. Obviously, yeah, like, I mean, like all guys, I guess, especially at this point, there's going to be doubts. So we'll have to see what happens. But I do like the pick for now. It definitely seems like, obviously, I know the Alabama tag also gives me a little bit of hesitancy, but I do think that like he also helped Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle as well. He also helped use their, like, he basically he helped them as well. So it wasn't just like a one way, oh, those guys made him look better. I think he also helped because he was able to find those guys when they were open and in tight coverage, and that helps having a quarterback who utilize your strength to the best of your ability. So yeah,
I want to say that Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle both went above Mac Jones in the draft. So
that's because that's a little different, right? Like, I mean, Jalen Waddle goes to he went to Miami. Right? And then so Miami's not really looking for a quarterback, right? So that's
so he's gonna be playing alongside Tua.
Yeah, so he's back with Tua, and then Devontae Smith went to Philly. So I mean, that tells me, yeah, I mean, so they did go ahead, but I mean, Najee Harris went behind him afterward.
Well, here's the thing. I want to point out one thing. Miami and Philadelphia both have an Alabama QB and wide receiver. Miami now has Tua with Jalen Waddle, sorry. And then Philadelphia has Jalen Hurts plus Devontae Smith.
Yep.
We have an Alabama QB with an Alabama running back in Damian Harris. So.
Yeah. And not just an Alabama running back, they also have Christian Barmore now, who also they drafted. And I actually really like this draft pick because they took him in the 2nd round. But if you read the scouting report, this is a 1st-round talent, and they got him in the 2nd round. And they did have to trade up with the Cincinnati Bengals, traded the 46th overall pick, and picks 122 and 139, both 4th-rounders, to Cincinnati to get him. But this means like their defense next year with Barmore, and then they also in the 3rd round they took Ronnie Perkins, the 3rd-round draft pick. Obviously, they lost one due to that videotaping issue with the Cincinnati Bengals in 2019, December of 2019, but they did get a compensatory draft pick for losing Tom Brady to the Buccaneers. And they used that to get Ronnie Perkins, another defensive tackle out of Oklahoma. And Perkins and Barmore, these are 2 good players. So I'm feeling the defense next year is going to be really, really good. It's going to be like 2019 level again, which was the top ranked defense in the league. I'm really excited by the defense, but yeah, I don't know. Like, what do you guys think about Barmore and Perkins? Like, do you think like what are your thoughts on the defense? Like, do you think this is going to be like kind of like a 2019 type season again by the defense, which was a terrific season all around?
Yeah, I think so. The thing is, like, you're talking about the 2019 defense, but the 2020 defense wasn't too bad either. Let's be honest.
It's true, but the offense was just so bad that the defense just had to be on the field so long, right?
Yeah, that's true. I agree, but you can't just have one, like, a good offense, bad defense, or vice versa. So I think the defense will be better than last season, but they like Mac Jones and any other rookie, they're gonna have to get adjusted to the NFL. So like, and then they're gonna have their training camps, then preseason, just to get some sort of like live game action against other NFL opponents, but like the real test will come in the regular season. So it's now that we're just finishing up the draft, it's a little too early to say, yeah, we're gonna be back to 2019 level of defense. But I would love to say that right now, but I want to be a little like, I don't want to get a little too ahead of myself. Let's be honest.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I guess like the other draft picks from Andre Stevenson, this was an interesting draft pick. And I guess one thing I don't really like, I know they took Trey Nixon in the 7th round. That was just announced like a little bit ago, like from University of Central Florida, wide receiver. But I kind of wish like Amon-Ra St. Brown, his brother Equinemius St. Brown plays for the Green Bay Packers. He was one of the top prospects, and he actually slipped to, I think, the 4th round. The Lions took him in the 4th round. That was someone I was kind of hoping the Patriots would take, another wide receiver. But I don't know, at least Kendrick Bourne, Jacoby Myers, and Nelson Aguilar. That's like a pretty good set of receivers. They're not, obviously none of those guys are like wide receiver ones, but yeah, I mean, I think hopefully they're assuming big roles for Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. So, I mean, that's like there. And then in the 5th round, they took a Cameron McGrone, inside linebacker from Michigan. 6th round, William Sherman, an offensive tackle from Colorado. So, I mean, those guys are basically, once you're there, you're pretty much just kind of throwing at a dartboard and just hoping one of those guys hits. So I don't really have much expectation for those guys, but I don't know. The Patriots obviously have had success in the later rounds. Like, I mean, not just Brady and Edelman, like they've had other successful picks in like recent years later in the round. An example is Michael Onwenu. Last year, a lineman, he was graded as one of the best linemen in the whole like rookie system. He was taken in the 6th round. So the Patriots do well in these later rounds. So let's see if any of these guys pan out and are serviceable players. But yeah, no, that's the Patriots take. Obviously, I like the draft, and I think it was necessary for them to take a quarterback this time, just because last year they passed on no quarterback, and they completely botched it last year. Like they remember the whole Jared Stidham, they like basically sold us as this is our guy. You heard them, like people were saying, oh, I can't tell the difference between him and Tom Brady. You heard all that stuff in like preseason, and then yeah, like all of a sudden in mid-June you signed Cam Newton. So yeah, I mean, now this time you have Mac Jones as the guy.
Mac Jones is going to be the guy because I mean sources are according to sources, Jimmy G's very, very likely not headed to the passing. Pats are very, very likely.
I'm okay with that because look, Jimmy Garoppolo at his best. He's
the Pats only have they have like $15.5 million in cap space, and Jimmy G's base salary is 24.1. So
okay. Forget about that. They would have restructured that and whatever. Like, there's always a way to like maneuver cap space, make it a bonus. There's hundreds of ways to maneuver and manipulate that thing. So that wouldn't have been the issue. I don't know. I've never been big on Jimmy Garoppolo. Maybe if he had actually won that Super Bowl against the Chiefs, maybe I would have thought different.
No, come on, that's one game, man. I mean, he's shown himself to be a good quarterback.
Wait, how? Against the Packers, he threw 8 passes. The run game carried that team in 2019. The run game in the San Francisco 49ers defense was what carried that team to the Super Bowl. You throw 8 passes in the week before and just offense scores 37 points. And then the week before that against the Minnesota Vikings, remember, he throws a terrible interception. The rest of the game, Kyle Shanahan just goes with the run game. The defense was good enough to basically carry them. So Jimmy Garoppolo was more of a passenger for that 2019 playoff run. And when it really came down to him in crunch time, needing to make that play when they were down 24-20, he crumbled under the pressure. So
I mean, I was against having the Pats letting him go in the first place and like the move to San Francisco. But now that it's happened, now with Mac Jones coming in, I can't help but think like is this some sort of like master plan? Like what do Kraft and Belichick know that we don't? That I can't help but think something along those lines.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just what happened was like, if you listen to Belichick's press conference, I don't think he's that enthusiastic about Mac Jones, not Mac Brown, Mac Jones. But I think at the same time, like what happened was like, I think they were just sort of like, if he falls to us at 15, then we'll take him. If he doesn't, then we'll take some defensive player. I think that was sort of how they approached it. And Mac Jones fell to them at 15, so they took him because that's what they sort of needed. So yeah, I don't think like this was like their target. This was a master plan or anything like that. I think if they really cared that much about Mac Jones, they probably would have traded up with the Panthers or something at 8.
Well, that begs the question. It begs the question: how much did they care about drafting a guy like Tom Brady when it happened?
Oh, he actually did. Well, what happened with Tom Brady, interesting side story, was Belichick. So they had Drew Bledsoe at the time, who's their franchise quarterback. But Belichick actually had his assistant, Dick Rabine. He was the quarterback's coach at the time. He basically just told him, like, hey, just go to these places. We need a backup quarterback, just scout. And at the time, the Patriots already had a couple backup quarterbacks. And one of the places Rabine went to was Michigan. And then he sees Brady. and he actually absolutely fell in love with Brady. And then he actually told Belichick, "This is someone I think is the best quarterback in the draft." So then that's what happened. And then Brady slipped to the 6th round, and I guess Belichick was just kind of confused about why he slipped so much, and then he took him. So Brady was kind of just like, they didn't expect anything out of Brady initially. Like, he was still backup, and then obviously he got his chance, though that's a whole different story. But with Brady, yeah, like when they took him, they weren't expecting him to become what he was. Like, not even Tom Brady was expecting in 2000 that he would have the career he had. So that's the thing. Like, I mean, that's the thing with the draft, right? It's like a dartboard. Like, sometimes like you throw it and you'll hit upon a guy like Brady, but most of the time in those later rounds, when you just throw it, you're probably just going to get some guy who maybe is in the league for like 3-4 years and then flames out. So that's sort of how this draft kind of works. Like, sometimes you get really lucky with a guy like Brady, but more often than not, you're going to get a guy who just sort of like is in the league for like 2-3 years and then isn't able to play anymore. So that's our take on the Patriots. Obviously a very nice draft. I think it's a good draft overall. And yeah, I wish they did get a receiver, but maybe there are still some undrafted free agents they can sign. So let's talk about the Celtics now, guys. So obviously, I don't know, like obviously yesterday was such a like
stagnation.
It was a terrific
win yesterday, but stagnation overall.
Yeah, no, like, I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna like rate this like win against the Spurs. Like, first of all, this it's the Spurs. They're the 9th seed. You fall behind. Well, it was 39-16 after one quarter. It was 77-48 at halftime. And Ujan, I don't know, did you just get flashbacks like to that game? Remember that game we went to against the Spurs in 2020, like early 2020? It felt like that same game. They just fell behind big, except this time the Spurs completely imploded. And Jayson Tatum, obviously, yeah, 60 points, but I don't know, like I feel like you're celebrating like you beat like the 9 seed. And you have to come back against them with such a historic performance. This still isn't a very good team. Like, it's not kind of the breakdown. We let's be honest. Like, this is not a very good Celtics team. I know yesterday was a very emotional win, but let's not forget the same team lost to the Thunder and Charlotte Hornets earlier this week too.
Yeah, I think here's the thing. Like, if it's pretty hard to come back from 32 points down to win any game, no matter who the opponent is, especially when they were down 29 at halftime. The fact that they turned it around, forced overtime, that's pretty good in its own right. Now, should we have fallen down by 29 points in the first place? I don't really think so. It really took, I can't believe it took Jayson Tatum to score 60 points in an overtime win just to beat the Spurs by 3. Well, let's be honest, that's my initial reaction to that. And the fact that if you look at the box score, after JT scored 60 points, the next highest score was what? 16 points from Jaylen Brown? I don't remember, but
Aaron Nesmith had a pretty good. He's actually had a pretty good couple of games. I think he scored 16 points. Jaylen Brown, I think, had 17 this game. He wasn't that great, though. He did hit that 3 at the end, which was nice. Like the game, I guess the go-ahead 3. But I don't know. Like the Celtics team, it really didn't show. It didn't show me that much in the end of the week. I guess just a 2-2. They're still 34-30. They're tied with the Hawks for the 5 seed. They are 1.5 games out of the 4 seed, so that's like their best, being the 4 seed. All in all, like, unless they go on some like deep playoff run, it's been a very disappointing season. Like, I don't know. Like, this was a cool win and stuff like that. Sure, you can say that, but I don't know. Jayson Tatum holding up a 60 sign, like the way Will Chamberlain did with 100. I'm like, come on, dude. You're the 6th seed. Stop doing that. Like, this is a regular season game. I guess a 9 seed, like, and you're holding up like a 60, like the way Will Chamberlain did for 100 points. Like, that to me is just, I don't know. Like, come on, stop doing that, guys. Like, you're not like, this has been a very disappointing, underachieving season. Like, don't do that type of stuff.
It's still a great individual stat, though. Getting 60 points in any game.
Yeah, but who cares? Like, I mean, you're like the 6th seed. This has been an underachieving season. Like, good for him. Like, I'm happy he got his 60 points.
That's in the context of that season. But if we're talking in the context of that game, 60 points that's a feet.
Yeah, but that's like the loser mentality. Like, we're starting to give to these guys now. Oh, cool. Look, in the season that's going nowhere, he scored 60 points. Like, we don't like these individual stats, like in this type of effort, it really doesn't mean much. Like, right? Like, who's going to remember this type of game? Like, if the season just like, I don't know, if they lose in the first round, they get swept in the first round, are people really going to care about this game where he scores 60 points in a regular season game like this? Like, it's one thing if you do it in the Super Bowl against the Atlanta Falcons, like if you come back from 28-3, that's different.
You are right about that. It's hard to get excited about this team because I don't really see this team going far into playoffs, and a lot of this is very likely going to get forgotten. So it's hard to even get excited about this.
I mean, yesterday was a nice win. Don't get me wrong. I was excited when he scored 60. I wanted him to score 60. But now I'm starting to really think like this has just been like, don't celebrate and gloat like that. Like, come on. Like you have the Portland Trailblazers tomorrow. Are you gonna show up for that game? Because last time what happened was he has like 44 against the Golden State Warriors. And you know what happened the next game? Against the Chicago Bulls, who are terrible this season. He went 3 of 17 and they lost by 6 to one of the worst teams in the NBA. So now what's going to happen is you have 60 points against a bad Spurs team. They're really not a good team.
Still not as
Now
bad as that loss against the Pelicans a few weeks ago.
But I mean, what about the loss against the Thunder? I know Tatum was out that game and Jaylen Brown had 39, but that was a horrible loss. Like they've had some really bad losses. Like they lost to Charlotte last Sunday, 125-104. It was a depleted Hornets team, and Tatum, Brown, they all played that game and they lost by 20. And obviously they did redeem themselves a little bit with that win on April 28th, the 120-111 win. Brown had 38, Tatum with 35. But this team just, I don't know, they keep stagnating. Like they'll sort of go up briefly, but then they'll go down. It's basically just like a radio wave. Like it's just up and down, up and down. There's no like clear prognosis. And I keep saying this, like at some point, like Danny Ainge in the offseason, he needs to consider like what to do going forward. I don't think you can have Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown together. Like they're both good players individually, but I'm starting to have the feeling that he's gonna have to choose one guy to keep and one guy to trade. And whoever he trades, he can get a great return for and really trying to build the team around the other guy. Because I just don't think these guys, like, I mean, they're individually great players. Like they're both all-stars, but I don't know, do you get the sense that like they're both like, do you think like these two can be like the top 2 guys on a championship team? Ujan, like, do you think so?
I think so. But the thing is with basketball, you have 5 guys on the court. You're talking about 2 guys in 5. And theoretically, they were there when Kyrie Irving was here, Gordon Hayward was here, Marcus Morris was here, and then I guess Daniel Tice was here, Marcus Smart was still around. Like that should have been a champion, at least a finals team. I'm not gonna say championship winning team, at least a finals team. What happened? You lose in the second round to Milwaukee. Like this team is not as good as the 2018-19 team.
Well, to be fair, on like what happened was like 2 years ago, though, it was like Tatum, like at that time, it was just the second season. He wasn't an all-star. So like Tatum and Brown have really elevated their game. Like Brown that season, I believe, came off the bench in 18-19, and he was like only averaging 10 a game. And Tatum was like average 15. So both of them have elevated themselves to all-star level. So you have gotten better in that context now. But like at the same time, I just don't think these guys are like capable of leading the team the way, like, I mean, Kyrie should have led the team. So yeah, I don't know. I just like my opinion on them really hasn't changed. Like they play Portland tomorrow, and I don't know, like if you understand the way the Celtics team has worked or like can predict it, tomorrow might just be that type of game where they get blown out by 30 or something, and we're back to basically like, oh, here we go again. Like they've tricked us, right? But I don't know. I'm hoping at least they can...
every Celtics game is like get like they go down by a lot, and then they seem to make an almost heroic comeback at the end. Sometimes it works, like last night. A lot of times it just falls short. And it just seems like the same old, like over and over and over again.
Yeah, so good for Tatum. 60 points, ties Larry Bird. I mean, it's an impressive stat. I'm not saying it isn't, but I just don't like people gloating it like more than they should, right? Like this is a regular season win against a bad Spurs team. You were down by 32 and good, they came back, but you shouldn't have been down by 32. Like, I mean, you should like 39-16 after one quarter. That's inexcusable to the Spurs team. Like, these aren't the old Spurs with Tim Duncan, Kawhi Leonard, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker. This is this team with DeMar DeRozan. And who else is there now? Like DeJounte Murray. Like, these are
Lonnie Walker. Lonnie Walker and like, I don't, Patty Mills. I think Patty Mills is there. Like, what? Like, this is, yeah, I agree. It's just like, it was a team, it was pretty much similar to the Spurs team we saw the early 2020. Like it felt almost exactly the same thing, except different outcome. Down big, you try to make a comeback. And
that was the game where Kemba actually got ejected, and then that fan threw that like seltzer and got ejected.
Some drink, yeah. And but like at that point, I mean, that was obviously last season and before COVID shut everything down. But either way, I just felt like if the Celtics perform in the second half, they do for every game from tomorrow night onwards, I'd feel a lot more confident about this team. Let me tell you that.
I mean, yeah, all of us would, right? But like, that's like, yeah, I don't know. So let's see what happens tomorrow against Portland. Obviously, they did beat Portland 116-115 earlier. Jayson Tatum had a big game then. So maybe, I don't know, maybe playing like Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, like playing the big stars, that will elevate his game again. But we'll see what happens tomorrow. That's our Celtics take. Obviously, so weak. Like, I know yesterday was a nice win for sure. It's a nice win, but well, it's nothing more than that at this point. Like, I'm not going to say it's like some season-defining win or any of that stuff because we've been fooled way too many times. We said that about the Warriors when he scored 44, and they laid eggs after that. So yeah, that's the Celtics take. 34-30, 6th seed. Let's talk about the Red Sox now. They've continued to play well and like 17-10, and I mean, they had a pretty solid week. Like, obviously, you beat the Mariners 5-3, and then like that was like last Sunday. 2 nice wins against the New York Mets. Like Garrett
only
Richards,
one loss.
Yeah, I mean, Garrett Richards was awesome. Like, we finally got keep ripping him on the show. 7 innings, 1 earned run, 10 strikeouts, no walks. He was awesome. Yay!
It looked like it's like let's party like it's 2014.
Pretty much. And then, I mean, the next night was even more impressive because they actually beat Jacob deGrom, and it was 1-0. But usually against deGrom, that's all you're going to get. Nick Pivetta, he was awesome. Nick Pivetta has been a steal for this team. Like, Chaim Bloom, he deserves a lot of credit for Nick Pivetta. And then, obviously,
Pivetta's been a gem. Like, he's probably one of the most underrated players, if you ask me.
And then just obviously they had that loss against the Rangers 4-1. It wasn't really I mean, it's just the offense kind of fell flat. Kyle Gibson.
Well, yeah, it was like they were down 1-0. They come back to tie at 1-1, and then like Sal Moore gives up 2 home runs, and they can get away from them. It happens every now and again.
I mean, Martin Perez actually played pretty decent too. And then yesterday, yesterday's 6-1 win. JD Martinez hitting 2 home runs. Xander with a 3-run home run, and he's had.
I mean, they went back to back in the first inning, and like it looked at even like before, like and a lot of this happened even before Arihari for the Rangers even recorded a single out in the first inning. And so like even before then, it just looked like it was over, and then the Red Sox could just kind of cruise from there, and so they've gone back to their winning ways. And my major worry, because like they after losing the first 3 against the Orioles, they just went on a tear afterwards, and then once that winning streak was snapped, I was all of a sudden worried like, oh, they got hot. Now that streak is over. Are they going to fall off of a cliff now? No, I mean now I think we're at a point in the season to say that okay, this is a quality team, and yeah, they're going to lose a few every now and again, but they're able to pick themselves back up and they're able to put it together, and that's Cora working his magic. If you ask me.
Team. And Ujan,
and I really didn't think I would say this. I mean, like we've all across the league. I mean, you got the Dodgers doing well. I mean that was to be expected in NL West, but the Giants are giving them a run for their money, and the Padres are kind of hanging in there as well. And the Royals, they're having a really good season out in the AL Central. Meanwhile, like in the NL East, that's probably that's the worst division in baseball, where the Phillies lead that division, but they're a 500 team. So it's been crazy the first few weeks, but at least from what I've seen, it seems like the Red Sox have the quality to go the distance, and I don't think that's that much of an exaggeration to say that.
Yeah, Ujan, what do you think? Like, do you think this Red Sox team is for real, or do you think like there's still too many flaws that will prevent them from being a playoff team?
I think I mean, at the beginning of the season, we all said that they're gonna be no more than 90 wins. I think all of us agreed that we're gonna have like
90 wins. I think we all.
I went with 85.
But either way, I mean, I think look. It's the first month of the season has just passed, and 17 wins, that's pretty good. But don't get me wrong, but it's just still a long season. And you just, if presuming that we still have everybody like at least healthy and playing well, I think we'll be able to win the division. I know the Yankees are not doing well right now, and then they might get on a big run, and then of course, you never know what's going to happen in the trade deadline. Somebody makes a big move and then bolsters a team. You know what I mean? But I think, like I said, it's just a matter of can the Red Sox consistently play well? And
I think they've shown that. They've shown consistency.
They have. But you never know. Something may happen, like JD Martinez gets hurt and then he's out for a while. It could happen to Xander Bogaerts.
That would be horrible.
I mean, all sorts of things can always happen. Of course, the naysayers can always make the case, but that can really apply to any team that's doing well. But based on this team, based on the way that they're performing, and given the circumstances, it's hard not to be bullish on the Red Sox.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you also look at their schedule for this their upcoming slate of games, they have obviously they're playing the Rangers again tonight. Jordan Lyles for the Rangers against Erod, Eduardo Rodriguez. Eduardo Rodriguez has been terrific, by the way, and he's really emerged as an ace for this team. But the Red Sox basically you have 2 more games against Texas. Texas is not a good team, so you got to keep winning. You have to win today and tomorrow, and then you have 3 against the Detroit Tigers, who are 8-20, terrible team. They should win at least 2 games there. Then you have the Orioles, who you swept earlier. Obviously, they swept you the first series, but you have 4 games against the Orioles. So your next 9 games, you really need to win 7 of them. At most, you can drop 2 of them. You need to keep separating yourself, because look, the Yankees seem like they're starting to awaken a little bit. They're 13-14, and you do have a 3.5 game lead over the division. But I mean, at this point, you have to keep building momentum, because the Red Sox, this isn't the 2018 team. This team they're overachieving right now. That's what I'm sort of getting at them. They're overachieving, and maybe it's 2013 where they overachieved.
Yeah, so is that team. Yeah,
championship. I mean, it can happen where you have a team some type of 2013.
That's what I noticed about the Red Sox, right? Most of the times when it seems like the Red Sox are built to have a great season, 2011, for example, they collapse. And
what about 2018?
And they're 18 to some extent, but a lot of times when they win, 2013, it seems to almost come out of nowhere.
That's
really
just
one
one season though. You're just bring up one season, you're saying a lot of the time, but that's just one season where they really surprised. 2004, they were really good.
I mean, 2007. I mean, they were a good team, but I don't really think that they were pitched as World Series.
Oh, they were. They had a good roster in 2007.
They had a good roster.
JD Drew. So they had that 2006 offseason. They added a lot of guys that made them a real favorite for 2007. So I don't know. Even 2006, what happened was they were a pretty good team, and I think injuries really hit them in August of 2006. I know this was a long time ago, so I think people still knew that they were a good team. They just got injury battered at the end, and that cost them a playoff spot. So I don't know. I think this is a good roster, but my only concern is, can they keep this up for the whole rest of the season? 27 games in, you're 17-10. That's terrific, but they need to keep
27 games. That's not a small sample size. That is not a small sample size.
That's 1/6 of the season, right? So that's 1/6 at this point of the season. So
but that's just because baseball has an insane number of games. Of course, I'm not going to go on that rant again.
1/6 of the season is pretty good. That's what I'm saying.
But still, even though it's only 1/6 of the season, they've played a lot of games.
I wasn't saying only 1/6. I'm saying you've already passed through 1/6 of the season, and that's actually a pretty decent sample size for how this team is going to do. That's what I'm saying. I think we're in agreement here. I don't know
this is for real. This is for real. I definitely think this is for real.
All right. So
I never thought I'd be saying this.
To the duck boats, then we're having another parade in October.
Oh,
it's too early to say that. The thing is, yes, it's not a small sample size. I mean, like I said a few times already, 17-10 is good for the first month, but in a long season like baseball is, a lot can happen. And which is why, as much as I want to get excited, I don't want to use my energy to get excited 1 month in, versus if we're winning the division, say with about 100 games in, I feel a lot happier.
Ujan, by your logic, then no team is good, because any team that's been doing well can always have an injury problem. Something can always happen to the trade deadline. I mean, you can go on and on about things that could mess up great teams in all sorts of ways. I mean, if you go by that logic, then no team is good. I mean, so I don't know what your criteria would be then to finally say that the Red Sox are a good team. Is it only at the very, very end when they finally lift that trophy, if that ends up happening? I'm not quite sure what your criteria are for declaring this a good team.
The criteria, like I keep saying, you cannot base it's really a matter of how you end, not how you start. So I'm just saying, you can, what if the Red Sox go on a 10-game losing streak and then they go under 5?
That can happen to any team, even good teams. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just saying, would you be excited about this team if you go on a long losing streak?
I think no, because they've shown what they're capable of, and even if they go through a slump, I think they've shown that they're capable of coming back from that.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think they've like kind of dealt with some like losses here and there. They've bounced back like really like besides
that opening sweep against the Orioles. I mean, they've dealt with adversity this year, and they know how to overcome.
No, that's true. I think like definitely if they deal with like a 3-game losing streak, they've shown that they can bounce back from that. So like, I mean, but since that opening week series, they haven't lost a series since then. They've split a lot of series, but I mean, they have split a couple like against the White Sox, Seattle, but like I don't know, like against like I think like Seattle, right? Like you lose one, then you win the next one, like and then like it was basically like I mean it was just an alternate, and then against Chicago they lose both games at the doubleheader, and then they win against what's that guy's name? He's really good, Lucas Giolito on Marathon Monday, or I guess the Patriots Day. They absolutely scorched him. He's an all-star starter, so this team has shown me that something, and that's an impressive thing, especially off of what I've seen. But I want them to keep putting the foot on the gas pedal, because what they have right now, it's working. So they got to keep attacking. And I mean, as I said, 2 against Texas, not a good team, 3 against the Tigers, and 4 against Baltimore. You got to win at least 7 of those games. You got to be 24-12 after that slate. I mean, that's what I sort of say. Like, so yeah, that's our take on the Red Sox. Obviously, it's been a good season so far, and they are definitely worth watching again, which is, I mean, after what we saw in 2020, it's a good sign. Let's talk about the Bruins last.
Yeah, let's head to the ice.
Yeah, so obviously
they're taking care of business.
Yeah, I mean,
headed into the playoffs, so they're looks like they're primed for a strong finish.
Yeah, I mean, you beat the Sabres 5-2 on April 29th, and then 2 days
games,
later, 6-2. Craig Smith was awesome today. Hat trick, 3 goals.
Oh yeah,
awesome. Is he going to have a
6? Yeah, 6 goals for the Bruins, and Craig Smith had half of them.
So I have a question: is he going to take a picture now with like 3 goals, like with like a paper with like 3 on it, like posted on like Instagram?
I'm sure you can probably compete with Jayson Tatum's 60 points, self-congratulatory.
Yeah, we beat the worst team in the league. Let's hold up a 3, like a hat trick. Is he going to do that now, like on social media? That's like our new standard, right?
The only difference is that the team in black and gold at TD Garden has not been underachieving, whereas the team in green has.
Well, I don't know. You really say the Bruins?
That's a.
I said the Bruins have kind of underachieved to an extent, like where they were really good early and then they've kind of slumped. I mean, they'll make the playoffs.
But they picked it up. And at least they're taking care of business against bad teams like Buffalo. I mean, like that was my major concern, is that because no game in the NHL is a gimme, and even against teams like Buffalo. But got to give it to the Bruins. They've taken care of business, and they managed to go in this past week. They went 1-1 against Pittsburgh, and even the game that they lost, that was a tight.
That was 1-0.
Yeah, that one goal came in the third period. I mean, it was like it was off of like some scrappy play.
Right? Jake Guentzel.
Jake Gensel's able to get that goal. I mean, Crosby and Dumoulin with the assist on that one. But they were able to come right back from that. They were to beat them 3-1 right after that. And so the Bruins have been shown to be capable of taking care of business against bad teams and competing well against good teams. And to me, that is the mark of any championship contender. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go out and say that the Bruins are going to make a deep playoff run just yet, because there's a lot of great teams out there. Just in this division, you got the Islanders and the Capitals, but I mean, like even like across the board, of course the Stanley Cup playoffs, it's a long grind, and I, even though they haven't clinched a playoff spot yet, I mean they're 1 win away from clinching a playoff spot with 6 games left.
And you played the Devils twice, but I mean the Devils have given them trouble this season. Obviously, they beat them last time 5-4. That was an exciting come from behind win, but the Devils have given them a lot of trouble this year. I don't know, Ujan, what is your take on the Bruins? Like, do you think that this is like a real Stanley Cup contending team, or do you think they're going to like find a way to like rip our hearts out again?
See, I wanted to talk before I think they have a good chance at making a run this time. But what I will say, even in the loss against Pittsburgh, Jeremy Swayman was pretty much standing on his head that game.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
it was brilliant.
I would have loved it if we at least made it to overtime, but 1-0, it just like in the third period goal, like it happens. And then
how many 1-0 losses have the Bruins had this season? Because they've had 2 to the Devils, 1 to Pittsburgh. Have they had like?
They had 1 to the Islanders as well.
Oh, okay, yeah. Ujan,
January 18th.
I was just remembering they've had a lot of 1-0 losses, which is okay. Yeah, but Ujan, keep going.
Yeah, but what I was saying, yeah, I think they're gonna make a good run in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Of course, when I think the addition of Taylor Halls has been fantastic, not
No
just
question.
Lazar as well.
yeah, him too, but not just for those two, but for David Krejci as well. I just feel like David Krejci has been doing really well with Taylor Hall and Craig Smith. I mean, of course, Craig Smith with the hat trick today. The one thing I will say about the Bruins is the shorthanded goal. Did you see that shorthanded goal for Buffalo in the?
Well, that was bad.
Oh my goodness! I mean,
Frustrating. I feel like they've also done that a couple times too this season. It's been frustrating. Like I don't know, like shorthanded goals are like inexcusable. Like this it's embarrassing. Like
I mean, especially when the guy's gonna get out of the penalty box like right after the face-off, and then once the puck's out of the zone, he's on one-on-one against Swayman. Like, come on, that's just the one thing that I would critique the Bruins on. But overall, they played really well today, and I know Buffalo is not the greatest team, but they've shown they can compete against the big teams in the division, like Washington and Pittsburgh, who have already both clinched playoff spots.
But it's a relief that they were able to take care of business, though, because a lot of times, even if you're playing bad teams, that's not like a guaranteed win. So just taking care of business is important.
yeah, definitely. And I mean, they're like ones. I think now because of that, they've actually jumped the Islanders by 1 point. And they're, I think, yeah, as you said, they just need one more win to clinch it. And they should get it. Like they're playing the Devils twice, and I know the Devils, like as I mentioned, they like have given them a lot of trouble.
Probably
this
even like an OT loss with the combination of like some other loss by some other team.
But maybe also I was about to say like the Devils' hex might be over because last time they were down 4-2, right? And then they ended up winning that game. Like that was a come from behind win. Like,
oh yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think they're trending in the right direction for sure. And I agree with you. The Bruins are in a much better position than the Celtics are. Like they definitely have a shot at the cup. And as like I don't know, the Tuukka Rask coming back and maybe having Jeremy Swayman breathing down his neck now.
I actually think that Swayman is the goalie of the future. I actually think like he's the real deal.
Maybe he's the Mac Jones. Has Tuukka Rask now become Cam Newton here?
I mean, look, I've always liked Rask. I mean, of course, you probably disagree with me on that. I know you've been critical of Rask in the past. But I mean, come on, Swayman. I mean, like he just demonstrates such like.
I mean, does Tuukka really strike you as someone? So my criticism on Rask is more just, does he strike you as someone who like loves and breathes hockey? Like, does he strike you as that type of guy?
I mean, he's been there for the Bruins and
carried them. That's different. Like, I mean, I'm just saying, like this guy, like I don't know. I just feel like there's like a stretch where I think he's the type of guy, like he's kind of like cool, like okay, cool. I've earned my money. I'm gonna peace out now. Like I've always gotten that sense on Rask. Like I feel like he's just not as committed to the Bruins as like someone that's. I don't know. Like it's just something like that. Like I feel like I've seen like a lot from Rask, and like he's a good goalie for sure. But I just don't know like if he's good enough to win you a cup. And I don't know like if that's ever gonna happen.
But I mean, he's been through the same journey. I mean, he started as a backup to Tim Thomas back in the day, and then he worked his way up the roster, and of course, I mean, like. I mean, unfortunately, he doesn't have a Stanley Cup to his his name while he was playing. But I mean, two appearances in the finals, and
like, I mean, I don't fault him for 2013. I don't fault him for Chicago because that was a great loaded Blackhawks team. But I don't know, 2019, I still can't really let that go. I mean, against that St. Louis team, that Game 7, obviously it wasn't just on him. Like, but like I don't know, it's just hard for me to really like let go of that one. Like, it's just a hard one to like. You should have won that series against St. Louis, and. I don't know. Like, I feel like this Bruins core, like, I don't know how many more years you really have with this, like, core. Like, I mean, obviously,
Chara's already gone.
Bergeron's
who knows how many years Bergeron has left? Yeah, like, so, like, Marchand is not young.
No, Marchand is, like, okay. Like, I mean, I'm not worried about Marchand. I mean,
Krejci's getting old, too, yeah.
Ryan McAvoy, like, those guys are young. But, like,
Charlie McAvoy.
And yeah, so I think the Bruins definitely, and I mean, Taylor Hall, like, how old is he? Like, he's like 30, right? Or something like that. So he's still kind of like, I don't know. So there are some questions I have for this Bruins team. Like, we'll see what happens. Like, Craig Smith, like, he's definitely like emerged as a really good player. Like, he's starting to really kind of heat up, right? Just when he kind of
and like I said last week, the Bruins, they just have to stay healthy because once they clinch a playoff spot, they just got to stay healthy for the playoffs because at this point, there's not really much of an incentive to be like a 4 seed versus a 3 seed. Versus a 2 or 1 seed because home ice doesn't really matter as much in the NHL as being at home does in other sports. And of course, the only difference it would make for the Bruins is, okay, do they play the Islanders or do they play the Capitals or do they play the Penguins? And they've been pretty much they've demonstrated that they
Capitals
can
would be a
beat-
very interesting series. There's been a lot of like fighting going on. That would be a very interesting series. I can see that going like 7 games and stuff like that. Those two teams do not like each other. So Washington, from an entertainment standpoint, I think Bruins versus Capitals would be like probably the most entertaining series.
they could at least avenge 2012 though. It's a chance to avenge 2012.
I mean, and if they play the Penguins, they can avenge 2013. So.
Well, yeah, but the Bruins beat them in 2013.
So I'm saying the Penguins.
Yeah.
2013 when they got swept.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's our case. Ujan, do you have any thoughts on the Bruins?
But I mean, aside from the Bruins, though, I mean, like this is like a massive news about the telecasting rights in the NHL. NBC is going to be gone next year, and ESPN, ABC is in. So is Turner Sports. So that means a lot of these games are moving to TBS and TNT. I'm just curious what your thoughts are about that. No, I mean, so of course, as of last year, I mean, from last year, this year, we don't have Doc Emmerich anymore, so he's gone.
Well, now Patrick Sharp, right? So we can't see Patrick.
Oh yeah. So I'm just like it seems like a Turner Sports is gonna either have it on TBS or TNT. They're gonna have some sort of show like built off of Inside the NBA. They're probably gonna have something like Inside the NHL or something like that. And so like and of course they have a very unique format of doing their show because it's very like it's very laid back. It's less focused on like the ins and outs of the game. So I'm just curious what your thoughts are about how about the prospect of Turner Sports picking up rights to the NHL.
Yeah, the thing with I like the Turner Sports coverage of at least NBA. I mean, I don't really follow so much about like the deals. I just like to have the games on television, at least from a fan's point of view. As long as it's there, I like it. But when it comes to like Turner Sports, like I like how they broadcast their games when it comes to like the analysts, like for example, like Inside the NBA, you get your kind of core four, and then you have your kind of commentators for the doubleheader, or at least for the NBA games. I don't know.
Who knows? Ernie Johnson might be doing hockey for all you know.
Charles Barkley is like making like man, that goal just sickened me, man. You have Charles Barkley and Shaq like complaining about hockey. That would be awesome. Like cross sport analysis now.
Oh, dude, we should get Shaq on the ice. Dude, that would be epic.
Uh-oh. I'd love to see that. Shaquille O'Neal trying to skate. Please, if they do that, then I'm all in. I'll start watching like NHL on NBC.
No, even better.
Sorry,
even
on
better.
TNT.
No, even better. Shaq tries to dunk one into the net. He tries to dunk the puck into the net, only to be turned away by Dikembe Mutombo going, "Oh no, not today."
Yeah, no, let's see what happens. But yeah, no, I think like overall, like I think it's a good deal. I think TNT does nice NBA coverage. I think baseball from TBS is pretty good. So I think it's a good deal for the NHL front. So we'll see what happens like about that going forward. I don't think it really matters to me too much. Like I usually just sort of I'll watch the game regardless of which channel it's on and stuff like that. I mean, we've dealt with Joe Buck for all these years, right? Like does that change? Does this stop us from watching football and baseball games? So no, I mean, just joking, Joe Buck.
I'm just curious to know your opinions about the various broadcasters, because I mean, like
I really don't care. Like I don't know. I'm not like look. I'll watch the super like regardless of which. I'll watch the game regardless of who's announcing it, right? Like I don't know. Like, there's some guys who like will complain and say it's awful.
But Turner Sports, they own Bleacher Report, so they can integrate the NHL better into that. I know a lot of people are on that. So it's just I just personally
think the NHL just does a bad job with like marketing their players in league compared to like other leagues, right?
But
like
the major negative is that Turner Sports is cable only and NBC is not. So you're going to lose a lot of viewers that way. That's.
I mean, that's already kind of like that's what's happened to baseball, right? It's majority cable only.
Yeah, ever since TBS got rights to the playoffs in 2007 and onwards, it's pretty much been for fans who only have broadcast. I mean, they're gradually losing more and more each and every year. And even the Stanley Cup Finals, the finals used to be the one thing that used to never be on cable. And in alternate years, that's going to be Turner Sports. So,
but
that's unfortunate. But I mean, when it comes to the broadcasters themselves, I mean, like it's good to get a change every now and again. I'm curious to see how it's going to do. But I do kind of like the fact that ESPN is getting hockey back because they basically didn't have it since prior to the 04-05 lockout. And so I think like having ESPN is important because if ESPN has it, then they can make anything mainstream. And I think the issue with hockey is that it not on a major sports network like ESPN. And so like it was kind of relegated to this niche status. And I do think that it's good for growing the game overall. I mean, I do have a lot of issues with Bettman and the judgments that he's made. I mean, he presided over 2 walkouts, but I mean, of course, like growing the game in the Sun Belt at the expense of like more passionate northern cities, in my opinion. But given all of that, though, I mean, we'll have to see what the path is for the NHL going forward.
Yeah, definitely agree. Well, let's see what happens. But anyways, yeah, that's our coverage for this week. Big news for the Pats. The Bruins are still playing well. The Celtics are basically nothing has changed. They're still very mystifying and very frustrating to watch. And the Red Sox are playing well. So let's see what happens. So that's our show for this week. Just one note, next week, Rohan is out. Ujan will be filling in. Ujan, looking forward to having you as my co-host for the 1 week, for sure.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I'll be quite the ride, wouldn't it? Can't wait to join you next week.
Yeah, definitely. So Ujan will be back, and Rohan, enjoy your week off. We'll see you again in 2 weeks. But yeah, no, guys, great show as always. As always, follow us on Instagram, the TV Update Podcast. You can smash that like button on YouTube. I love saying that. And yeah, subscribe to us and keep giving us any feedback, if any. And until then, we'll talk to you again next week. And have a good one, guys.
Peace.